What's up, noobs? Welcome back to Noob's Perspective. Today we're going to be continuing where we left off and finish with our tip calculator, and then I'm going to add some error checking in at least the tip calculator function and perhaps the other functions. I might add some error checking. So let's get started. This is where we left off last time. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to keep this as its own Py file and create a new one for part 2 and kind of have a changelog to show what I've changed. That way I could go through and see what the differences are. And I'm just going to copy everything from here over here, and I'm going to change the name to 2, save it. So this is part 2. What we're going to do with the tipper is we need to add a variable for the tip. So one thing that I could do is I could create an if statement that checks if your answer is 1, if your answer is 2, and if your answer is 3, and then have another one that's for any other number.
That's not gonna fly. It's gonna make you start over.
So I'm actually going to do just one variable without an if statement because I have a way I can calculate it using just one equation. One size fits all for 1, 2, and 3 if they give me appropriate input. Since this is going to hold a float, I'm going to call it a float. I actually don't even have to do that because the variables that I'm passing to it, it's going to be working with a float, so the answer is going to be a float anyway. But I'm just going to do this in C++. You have to define what kind of variable you're working with. The tip equation is going to be pretty easy, so our tip tiers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 10%, 15%, and 20% tip. I'm going to take what's in bill and we're going to multiply that by our the user's input, so service, that's 1, 2, or 3. And hold on, let me get back to that part. I do know that I'm going to need a constant 0.05 because the equation will work by using 0.05. So if I say service times 0.05, that is going to give me, if the answer is 1, that's going to give me 0.05, and then I'll add 0.05 to get 0.10, which in percentage is 10%.
If I do 2 times this, I get 0.1, and then add this, and I get 0.15, which is 15%, so on for 3. So that is going to be my equation.
And I'm going to close it all up. And I'm going to print it and just see what we get. Oh, dinner was $100. So if the service is a 1, I should be expecting 10% of 100, which is 10.
But I got 5.05. That ain't right.
Yes.
So in Python, you need to know your order of operations. Python, like in math, when you're evaluating left to right, it's going to do the order of operations, which starts at parentheses, then exponents, then multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. And multiplication and division are the same level. So if division's on the left and multiplication's on the right, it'll just read left to right. Same with addition, subtraction. They can be on either side, it just reads left to right on that tier.
The problem I see here is it's taking this service times 0.05 and then it's multiplying it by the bill and then adding. I need to put all this in the same tier. Actually, just going to get rid of that parentheses and close out the float here. It's going to run multiplication first, so that's good, and then it's going to add that, so that's doing what I need it to, and then that whole answer is multiplied here. So that should fix it. Okay, so we'll do $100 for dinner. Service was 1, so I'm expecting the tip to be 20 bucks. Sorry, 10 bucks. This is 10%. So that makes sense. Okay, so that one worked. The next thing I need to do is I need to format this to look more like money, because in US dollars we use to 2 decimal places, even when those 2 decimal places are zeros. Oh, I'm going to use the round function, which is a built-in function in Python. I could just put round in here to round it.
I could do that all in one line, but that starts to get a little clunky. This is already kind of getting, it's not that bad, it's really not that long. But I want to kind of space it out so it's a little more readable. So what I'm going to do is actually call this tip calc, because this is going to kind of calculate the tip amount, whereas this one's going to be what the tip actually is.
And I'm just going to round tip calc. And the round function takes 2 arguments. The first argument is the thing that you're going to round. And the second argument is how many decimal places are you going to round it to. Round it to 2 decimal places. So this time we should see 10.00. And we didn't get it because...
My bad. It's rounding it, right? So it's rounded to 2 decimal places, but I haven't actually formatted it to print 2 decimal places. My bad.
So what I need to do is use the format function. Let me show you how that works.
This one was actually really confusing to me the first time I used the format. It takes a little bit of memorization. I'm glad I have it down now.
So tip is, this is how we're going to format it. We're going to use the $sign, and then I'm going to use this curly brace here for the format. And in the format function, you have to put the things that you're going to format with. You can actually include multiple items here. I'm just using tip. And I'm going to show you a little bit how this works and explain it. Let me just make sure it works.
I forgot the parentheses. My bad. I'm a noob.
Perfect. $10. So let me show you how it works real quick.
So I want to print something, blah, blah. And I want to put something here, here, and here.
So in the format function, you have to include the items you want to format with. So I'm going to do 0, 1, 2. Now, this is probably confusing to you if you don't know what this is. Let me try and explain it as best I can. So this is saying what's the index of your list that you're formatting. So this format function takes a list of things. So I could say in the first place, put tip, in the second one, put total, put bill. So what this is doing is creating a list starting at index 0. So there are 3 items, but it's not just counted 1, 2, 3. In Python, and I think pretty much any other programming language, it starts at index 0. So this is 0, 1, 2. So what this is saying is when I print this, it's going to print blah blah, and when it gets here, it's going to replace the curly braces and 0 with whatever the value of tip is. In this case, tip is whatever the percentage is of the bill amount. And then total, I haven't made that variable yet. That would go here and replace these curly braces and number, same with the bill would go here. Hope that makes a little bit more sense. And then the second thing I did after I said put the tip over inside, so all this is doing is putting tip inside the curly brace, and then I have this right here to format it. So this part may be a little confusing at first. So 0, we have the number again, so this is index 0, there's only one thing. If I added another thing, this is index 0, this is index 1. So we've got 0, and then I do the colon, and on this right side here, I am specifying how to format this number. So I'm saying I want to format by decimals to 2 places. The F, this is my guess, I actually don't know. I think this is just saying floating a float. So format it to 2, float it to 2 decimal places. So let's do one for the total. So for total, I'm not going to do like a total calculation and have it separate, because all I have to do for total is just add 2 numbers together. I just add bill plus tip, and that's my total. So bill is actually already going to be a float, and tip is going to be a float. So my answer is going to be a float. I don't actually have to type this. Okay, dinner was $100 and the service was a 1, so we're expecting a $10 tip with a total of $110. Ah, but we didn't print total. My bad.
$0. Gonna do the same thing here.
$100. Service was 1, so we're gonna get a $10 tip, and total is $110. So that works. Let's actually try it with a bigger number. Let's do 357.91. It's kind of an odd number, and we'll do a 2 because that's going to give us a 15% tip. Perfect.
That's right. Let's just take a look real quick. So we're going to do 357.91 times, so 15% tip, so times 0.5. So tip should be 53, and then we're going to round up 69.
69.
53.69, and then if we add 53.69 to 357, we have 411.6.
And that should be it for the tip calculator. So the tip calculator is done. Now I want to add some error checking real quick to the tip calculator. The errors I want to check for, I don't want the user to put in a string or characters. So no letters and symbols. I just want an integer. What I'm going to do is, it'll be okay if they do a floating point number, so if they give me like 1.5, because what I'm doing is using int to truncate it. So if they put 1 point anything, it's just going to drop everything after the decimal and just make it an integer. So it's just going to end up being 1. If it was 2.5, it's going to make it 2. So I'm covered for 1, 2, and 3. That's fine. Now if they put in a number outside of that range, say less than 1 or greater than 3, we've got a problem. If they include characters, we've also got a problem. So I need a way for it to check, did they give me some good input? So we're going to use a while loop. That's what's going to make it so that I can check for errors. Is I basically need to run this chunk of code repeatedly until I get the input that I do accept. So if you don't know what a while loop is, I will make a video later kind of explaining that better. There are actually a couple things I'm going to introduce here that if you don't know how they work, I will have some videos later on how to do those. And if you know how these work and you think the way I did it was inefficient or there was a better way, just let me know. I'd love to see how you would have handled it. This is the syntax for a while loop. While, and then you have your conditions in the parentheses, and then the colon, and then the stuff that you're going to do below indented. For the while loop, what it's going to do is it's going to run some code repeatedly while a condition is true. Once that condition is no longer true, or you use a break command to get out of it, it's going to just keep running that. So I'm going to create a variable to just hold a value. And this is how I'm going to start my while loop. This is the way I like to do it, and you can make it whatever you want. You can call it whatever, and you can assign it whatever value you want. You can do numbers, letters, you could do Boolean values, which means true or false. I'm actually just going to use 1 and 0. So 1 means true in my case, and then 0 is going to mean false. While looper is true, so while looper is 1. Run the stuff below it. Make sure you use this equivalency operator and not the assignment operator. Okay. Next, I'm going to use try and exception. So this is exception handling. So if we get an error, I want to be able to handle that error.
What's really annoying in Python, it took me forever to figure out, is when your code catches an error, it stops the program, it shows in red, you've got such and such error at this line, and your program's stopped. It's so annoying. So we're going to catch the error and make it basically restart. If the user gave me bad input, I'm going to make it restart. It's going to ask that over and over until they give me some good input.
I'm going to say try to do this. So try to get the bill from the user. Just try that. And what it's doing is it's asking the user how much was dinner, and then it's going to try and convert that to a float. Now again, if we get special characters or letters, it is not going to be successful in converting it to a float, and is going to give an error. So I could just say except, meaning anytime there's an error, display this message and make them start over. Instead of doing that, I'm going to have it catch a specific error, which is a value error. That's the error that we're going to get if they give me letters instead of a number that can be turned into a floating point number. If we get a value error, tell them.
Now use \n. If you don't know what that does, that creates a new line. And I'm doing that because I don't want everything to be all bunched together. I want the lines to be separate so that when I run it and try to see where a problem is, it's easier to read.
So print, bruh, give me a number. And then I'm going to say continue. So what the continue says is, after this exception, I would like for you to start the loop over, and just keep starting the loop over until we get something good. Now what happens if they give me good input? They give me a number. Well, now I need to do some error checking on service. So I'm going to use else. So it's basically saying try this, if you get this error, do this, anything else, and anything else is pretty much going to mean they gave me a number, which is good input. I want you to now do the same thing for service. Make sure you get your indentations correct here. Actually, I need to start a while loop, my bad. I'm creating another while loop. And we're just going to use the same condition. Looper is 1. Oh my goodness. Don't you hate it when you hit the home or end button? Looper is 1, and it's still 1. I haven't changed it yet. While looper is 1, and pretty much just run the same code we did before.
But for service, try to do this. Try to make an integer out of whatever they make. Again, if they do letters, it's not going to be able to turn that into an integer. We're going to get an error there.
So Sorry, this was going a little bit longer than I thought it would. It's not as easy as I thought. So service, you are now equal to whatever that is made into an integer. But if we get a value error because they gave me the letters,
then I want you to print the backslash n to break it up. Wait, I'm gonna say a whole number.
so print that, and then go to the top of this current while loop. So this continue takes me to the nearest loop. This one takes me to the nearest loop going up. Now what happens if they do give me some good input? What happens if they do give me a number? Well, I still want it to be between 1 and 3. So else, do this if statement. Say that if service is less than 1, or service is greater than 3, so it's outside of my range,
then I want you to print in number between 1 and 3, please.
go back to my next while loop. Continue. But if this turns out to be false, and they actually give me input that is very acceptable, it is a number between 1 and 3, then what I want it to do here is give me a way to exit the loop. Looper equals 0. Should work in theory. Let me test it. Oh, forgot to indent. Gonna have to indent everything.
It gets a little confusing for me when everything is nested.
Just kind of gets deeper. Okay, let's try now. Dinner was apples. It wants a number. Okay, $3,000. Service was also apples. It was crap. Okay, let's give you 12. Okay, so let's make sure the error checking's worked so far. So for dinner, definitely worked. Gave a number and then it passed me through. I gave it letters, so a string of characters, and it says you gotta give me a number, a whole number between 1 and 3. Then I gave it a number, but the only problem is it's not within our range here. So it displayed this next message. Alright, fine. I'll give you a good number.
Oh yeah. It worked! Oh, that's so cool. It worked. It really worked.
So that's error checking. It was a little more complicated than I thought. I thought I was just going to use if statements to get by, but I did decide that I was going to need a loop, and then I didn't want to use try, except, and else. It's actually really good. It just always kind of scared me because I wasn't great at it, but it kind of clicks for me now. And I'm going to make a change log. So I'm just basically saying what I've done to change in this episode. Okay. That's all for this episode. Sorry it took so long. I thought it was going to be a lot faster and I was going to be able to get to error checking on these other functions, but that didn't work out. So I might try some error checking on these next time. I don't want the next video to be all error checking again. I want to add a Fibonacci sequence and maybe finish out the error checking if I finish the Fibonacci sequence. So plan on Fibonacci sequence next time, and then I think after that I might get started on the GUI. Make things look a little better. If you have any questions about what I've done, let me know. Comment with any questions you might have, and I will respond to you if I can. Probably will, because I don't have very many subscribers. So if you do comment, I'll probably be able to respond to it. And if you have a better way to do it, please let me know. I would love to be more efficient in my code. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.